Hey everybody, this is Ann. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and no disembodied voice, Justin. He is at Reaper and has no access to the studio yet. It is not yet re-put together, so it's just us. It's just us today. Until we need him, then I can shout at him on my phone, but until then, it's just us. So how is everybody today? It's Wednesday? Something like? Yeah, it's Wednesday. Haha, painting Big Dragon with the Mercy Wings, my favorite freestyle. Can't beat the Mercy Wings. I was playing Mercy last night and winning. So, that's always a good side effect, right? Everybody says hi, and otherwise you're all like, "Oh, needed another half hour of sleep," right? Is that what I'm seeing there? That was me. That was me yesterday, actually. Today we're pretty okay. Although I may pop the window open. I know the minute I do, they'll start mowing the lawn, but Kiri dog is going to get pretty warm in here, I think, if I don't. Let me see. I'm going to do that really quick. Here, I'll give you a dragon to look at while I do that. How about that? Let's go to Dragon Cam. Dragon Cam. We'll see if I can... Oh, we'll do that. I'm trying to see if I can trigger the AC and give Kiri a nice cold air. Will that be okay? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it'll go. We'll see. Sorry, I should have done this before stream, but I totally forgot. It was really cool in here until I sat down in front of my big light. Then I was like, oh wait. I feel like I could use some air. There we go. All right, here we're back. We're back. Hello, everybody. Trying to photograph minis. Yes, that can be a painful process. Karinico. Pro tip, use a gray background. Get a couple of different shades of gray. If you're like me, you get away with using good old-fashioned construction paper for that. But you can get nice backgrounds if you really want to. Hello, everybody. Oh, was there a sub? Did I miss it? Neural, did you sub? Oh, yeah, you did. Hold on. I missed you because I went to open up the window and try to get the vent going so Kiri would not overheat. There you are. 12 months. Oh, it's your 1-year anniversary. Congrats, Neural. Super awesome. Cryptic messages from Grim this morning. Well, that's Grim, though. All right, let's get our paint put together. So today I want to try, I'm going to block in some more of these big gems, actually, all around the wings. And then I want to try putting some color on these wing membranes to see if I'm right about what color will work with this. Because we're heading there fast. An old IKEA throw. Yeah, you want something, the key here is that you want something kind of neutral colored. And, I mean, the more neutral you can get it, the less it's going to cause your camera to shift color. The less adjustment you're going to have to do post. So the more neutral gray of a background. Some people will use that white to blue fade. I've never liked it. I feel like some minis really photo dark against it. But it really depends on your setup. It also depends on your camera. If you're using a real DSLR, it's going to have a lot less. It's not going to be thrown as much, right, by anything you do to it. Whereas if you are doing a phone camera, although the resolution is equal, the white balance really isn't. So it can shift cooler or warmer depending on your background. So, and definitely will shift the miniature lighter or darker depending on your background. So be aware. But yes, I always recommend people just get construction paper, Karinico, because it's really inexpensive. And that way, if you're like me and you also paint on it, when you spill your water on it and make these little droplet things, or you get a paint streak or something, you just grab another sheet because it's so inexpensive. Hey, Tashi. Yeah, I'm working on him. Mr. Dragon is coming along. But right now, I need to block in some of his stuff. I probably need to get the rest of his underbelly first. Get that yellow and that shaded yellow in there on his underside while I can reach everything without risking painting over something else. And then I really want to, like I said, I want to block in some of these crystals on this side of the dragon. And then pop some color on the inside of these wings and see. No problem, Neural. No problem. But yeah, so then we'll see how it works. Because these are, you know, this is definitely not a standard color scheme. So I put some thought into what might work and what might not work. And I mentioned, I believe, that we might use Icy Violet for this. And I thought I also wanted to use a fleshy color. So I'm looking at Rosy Skin and Icy Violet for the wing membranes. So we will try that. But first we need to get a little bit more of this white out of the picture. Because remember, colors always change depending on what's next to them. So until you have all those main colors blocked in, you really can't make a good judgment call as to, you know, as to what to, as to what's going to work really well, right? So yeah, that's why I kind of finished out this front leg a bit, is to kind of get an idea of how the green was going to look overall. And it doesn't shift too much, though it gets a little more muted. So that's something I'll have to play in, because I can't go too saturated. So yeah, so that's all these thoughts that you are looking at when you are looking at this dragon, wondering what the heck color I'm going to use for these things. You can, by the way, you could always make them, the default color to make those wings is to match this beige, this golden creamy color that we did. Because if you go for that, it's going to make sense. It's going to repeat the color on another area of the model, you know, which is never a bad thing. And so you could do that very easily, and you won't get into trouble that way. Oh, I've been doing Amazon, Kerniko. Yeah, everyone is staying in and crafting. Yep. Yeah, colored paper can be hard. I did paint one. Like, if you have an airbrush, the other best thing is to grab a sheet of watercolor paper and airbrush a light gray on it. Rainy gray might be a really good one, or cloudy gray. I think I used cloudy gray to good effect. Vim Aqua, this is a 3D printed copy. This is the master, actually. The first print that we did of the Gemstone Dragon. So though apparently your eventual model will be transparent, I think that takes all the fun out of it. I would probably still paint mine opaque. But yes, apparently it is shot in transparent bones, so that if you want to just paint the dragon and leave the gemstones transparent, you could do that. Or you could make the whole dragon transparent if you really want to. I think that does take, for me, that takes the fun out of it. But, you know, not everybody will agree. So, yeah. All right, let's get our colors together. So I want some of the orange, because I want to get some of these big gemstones blocked in. And then probably toward the end of the show, we're going to try the colors on the wings that I mentioned, on the inside of the wing membranes. And if they don't work, I can always go back and just do the yellow. So, yeah, you could always just whip out your airbrush and spray primer over it. I have my blue Wraith Lord over on the next to the sink, so that I can prep him tonight, so that we can work on him, so that you guys can finally have me work on a transparent model on stream again. I'm giving in to you for Halloween. Happy Halloween. Yeah, thanks, Christine. Well, you sculpted them very well. You sculpted them very well. Here, let me get him up close. You need to take a close-up of his mug here. Yeah, there we go. So the gems are done with this new color, which will be coming out in Kickstarter 5 also, because, you know, if you're going to do a dragon that's Kickstarter 5, you may as well start out using Kickstarter 5 colors, right? So it's a leaf bud green and lotus orange. They're in the same triad. And the orange is brought up with some NMM Gold highlight to mute it out a little, because the green is so muted. I need to take the orange down a little bit to make it work. And then shaded with some Harvest Brown, which a lot of people kind of like pass over, but Harvest Brown 9200 is a great shader for orange. You can just see that it's a very orangey brown on itself. So if you need, again, to mute down an orange and not keep it bright because of other colors you're using on the model, it's a great color. But yeah, I'm glad you stopped in, Christine. I was thinking about you the other day, because usually it seems like Bob and Julie summoning happens when I'm working on one of their models. So I was like, I hope Christine gets on and sees Gemstone Dragon. But yeah, I wanted to, Christine, I wanted to do kind of a Gemstone Forest Dragon. Kind of a, so I was thinking like a Forest Dragon in the fall. Like maybe his gems change color with the season. And maybe he, like, you know, starts to like bleach out a little bit. Maybe he changes color with the seasons. So, but I wanted to do something different. I originally primed in blue, and then I was like, and then I got this idea, and I was really excited because it's a very non-standard color for a dragon. Hello, hello, hey, Bryce is here too. He's lurking. Yeah, it is really cool, isn't it, Bryce? You could do so much with it, right? There's so many options. All right, so let's thin down our Lotus Orange, aka Salmon, aka Coral. For those of you who want a coral color, Lotus Orange is very close. It's a bit more on the salmon side of coral, but it's still a good coral color. And if you want it more pink, just add like a little bit of clear red and white. And then it'll go to a true, like a more reddish, pinkish, orangish coral. It's pretty versatile, actually, because it's very pure. Yeah, I will, because I brought it up here. I know. Just looking at... So I've thinned this a little bit. I don't mind putting 2 coats on. Because I'm doing gemstones and I needed the surfaces to be pretty smooth, using a thinner base coat means I won't get any globbies. And because I've left these gems white after the prime, it'll be nice bright color over the top of them. If you chose to spray your entire dragon a different color and then do the gemstones in some bright or light color, you will want to paint them white first after you do whatever color the rest of the dragon is, after you do your initial spray. You're going to want to repaint these white so that you get the brightest color if that's what you're going for. Otherwise, if you like spray your dragon blue and then try to put like bright magenta crystals on it, the magenta isn't going to carry very well. I missed a little bit of 3D printer stuff. Hold on. I have a little artifact here, and as you all know, I am not scared of just like taking my knife even after everything is primed and painted and just wicking it off. There we go. Much better. Sometimes you get those little things and you just miss them the first time around. Not a big deal. All right, and then our gem that we figured out yesterday. Yeah, or Justin will. Maybe that's something that, because Justin actually starts the stream on his end since I'm piping this through Reaper. And I usually don't have time to get on social media prior. But yeah. For sure. Sculptors seem to have a psychic sense, though, of when I'm working on their model. Either that or somebody somebody thinks about it and actually tags them separately from the stream to alert them. All right, so we're going with that orange. And I'm just going to block in. I'm going to block in, I think, these big crystals on his haunch. So normally, yeah, this is very bright orange for these delicate greens. Although the green is, although it is light, it is still fairly saturated. But normally this orange would be too bright. And it's using the NMM gold highlight to highlight it with and the brown to shade it and the white to bring out the facets that takes the orange down to a level where it can coexist nicely with the green. So it's like, just because you use a color, if it's too bright, that doesn't mean you're stuck with it. It means you can still use it, but you might need to use more muted colors to highlight and shade it. There we go. Getting that done. But yeah, I can't wait for a bunch of your stuff to come out, Christine. Once it's out I'll probably grab it in metal. I want those young adventurers for sure. I think I grabbed them in bones for the Kickstarter anyway, but I would like them in metal because the details look nice. And I always, I tend to like to paint stuff in metal whenever it has nice details. Even if it's more expensive. There we go. So we've got some more of our gems coming. You can see they're a lot brighter when they start. But they should still give me an idea of how well these wing membrane colors are going to work once I have them all blocked in. So I also need to figure out what color his claws are going to be. I kind of need some more contrast on this dragon, so I may go dark with them. I think I mentioned that yesterday. Haha, Viman Aqua. I have 3 that I've switched back and forth to using in the last 3 months or so, depending on size. Here, let me grab them all. Been making myself work with tiny brushes again a little bit, so I've got here. Let me get everybody looking good for their camera shot. All right, so here are my 3 brushes. You can see the size variance. Haha, no problem. No problem, Bryce. So these are the size variation from the largest brush I use to the smallest brush that I use. Probably I use the larger brushes a lot more often. Today I am using, for example, the number 1 Raphael. It's an 8408, not an 8404. A lot of people seem to like the 8404s, but I really like the 8408. I like that razor tip that you get, that really long tapered tip. The other 2 are Da Vinci. I am a Da Vinci fangirl. They're the Da Vinci Maestro Series 10, which is their standard round. The 10 is down there. And one of them is a size 1, and the other one is a size triple aught. I went back to using some tiny brush because I realized I had a bunch of them and I wasn't using them. And so I decided to analyze how they can best be used given my current painting style, so I could advise y'all. And you guys will find that out in my PDF this coming month. My video is coming month for the $2 tier on my Patreon. But in short, if you use very, very thin paint, then Tiny Brush can give you a little bit of a better experience. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to go there or depart entirely and go like a blue-black. I've been known to do that. I was thinking dark brown might work. I'm using Harvest Brown to shade the gems, but I'm also using a touch of brown liner, so that would probably be something to work. And I could bring this up toward a cream color, toward the tips, so that they look more like claws. You did sculpt them like gemstones, Christine, so that threw me off because I was like, well, now if they're sculpted like gemstones, I can't paint them like claws. So that's the downside, is that his claws look like gemstones. So I'm like, should I do them orange? So, but I think I'm not going to do them orange. I think I will start, the brown makes sense because if they are gemstones, then they would have something in common with these guys. So we'll see what I can do. But yeah, then that would allow me to go more of a gray blue with the stone, which I thought about doing just to set him off better, a darker gray blue. Because the gems here are going to be orange as well, and the blue would introduce a complementary color. Just a little bit of blue, not a lot, just mostly a dark gray. But yeah. Well, yeah, I know that, right? But this is what people are going to think, right? This is what your average customer is going to think, is if they're painting all the gems the same color, they're going to go, oh, the claws are gems, I have to paint them the same color. So it's always something to keep in mind. You know the people. You know the painters. But yes, you can paint them however you want. I like to make things kind of look like, with an animal that's natural or even supernatural, I tend to like logic. So I will go, probably, I'll even maybe put a touch of orange in there. We'll see. Hey, Eliatter, thank you for the resub. 6 months. That's fantastic. Half a year. It's your half a year anniversary. Ah, oh no. And I dropped a brush. I dropped my big brush that I was using. I like the big brush for this because, one second. Yes, I know I'm off camera. Because it lets me do the big work on the gems. It also lets me, when I want to, switch to doing little tiny lines on the gems. So as I'm switching back and forth and doing these gems, I can base coat with this big thing and cover ground fast. But then it also has the tip I need to just go and do all these little details and the highlights and shading. So that's why I think I'm gravitating toward big brush for these gemstones today. And I really do need to put this gemstone here because it's right under the wing, and that means it's going to be right up against the color that we put on the underside of this wing. And remember, that's what we're kind of testing here, is we're going to go in and we're going to see what will work for the underside of this wing as far as colors go. Because as Inara brought up a couple days ago, I think when we started this, you can go with too many colors. There is a very good reason why I tend to go neutrals, have a lot of neutrals on my models, is so you don't get into a color corner. A A lot of people just reach for another color and another color and another color, and they're like, well, what color do I make this and that after they've already got 3 or 4 colors on the model? And the answer is you should be reaching for neutrals at that point. You shouldn't be reaching for yet another color. So here, 4 colors, 4 strong colors is the most I ever go. Probably in 99.99999% of my models. This does not count colors that I am sneaky with. For example, shading yellow with purple. I'm not going to count the purple in that case. I'm going to count the yellow. I'm going to count whatever the strongest color is. So you can use all the colors of the rainbow on a model if you're using some of them as highlighters or shaders. But in general, when you are choosing strong colors on a model, like your main colors, first pick 2, then add a 3rd if you think it makes sense. And then you can go for a 4th, again, if it makes sense. Usually your 4th on an average miniature, though, is going to be an accent color, if anything. Just because of, the average amount of space on your average miniature. Got a lot of orange there on the back. A lot of orange. Even Tiamat Jellyware. Even Tiamat only has 3 strong colors on her. She has red, blue, and green. 3. Everything else, when you look at how people paint her, almost everything else is neutral. And I probably should get the back of his crest here too while I'm blocking in things. Because black and white don't count as colors. Black and white are neutrals. They don't fight with anything. They don't have a problem with any other color. They go with everything. So neutrals are what you reach for when you've exhausted your other color options and you don't want to get the Rainbow Lich of Doom. Hey, Daffodware, how's it going? A lot like I'm starting up here. I'm going to vary them a lot more probably with the big crystals, Cornico. And you see how I went yellow with some of these instead of orange, or I went a yellowy orange, or I did kind of a back and forth and did a wet blend. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of that. I'm laying down my orange first, but I don't have to really worry about that because my my NMM Gold highlight, which is the yellow that I'm using, is very high coverage. So I can base coat everything in orange, and then I can break it up. But yeah, even Tiamat is only 3 colors when it comes to actual strong hues that are not neutrals. And most versions of Tiamat that I have seen paint her body gray, black, or brown, which are neutrals, again. So this dragon right now has, as I pointed out yesterday, he's got an analogous color scheme. This is the term for this. It means that all of the colors that we are using are kind of together on the color wheel. We're using a yellow, green, we're using an orange, we're using a yellow. Those are all next to each other on the color wheel. The red that we're using has a lot of, the orange that we're using has a lot of red in it. So that pushes it a little farther apart. But then we're mixing yellow with it, so we're bringing it right back. Yeah, I think that was Michelle Blastenbryce. Or, I guess she has a different last name now. I cannot remember. But, analogous color scheme. So we've got a yellow-green, right? You can see it. You can see it's actually the color of the color wheel. Oops, got some orange on it. Then we've got a yellow. It's a very muted yellow, but it still counts as a yellow. We've got a yellow-orange in the highlights on some of these gems, and it goes up to an orange. So you can see that's very close. We go to red-orange. Yeah, it has a lot in common with our base coat color, but after we highlight it, more hits here. So we're an analogous color scheme. We're using colors that are all next to each other on the color wheel. Now we're about to depart from that if I do what I want to on these wings. We're about to go with a complementary instead. Which is something I like to do. I will admit that I am not a fan of analogous color schemes. It always seems like it's interesting, but it always seems a little empty to me. Like I'm always looking for that more, that punch of more that complementary color gives. Do I have an orange dot? Yeah, I can paint over it. When I make this is part of why I do this painting in sections things. Oh, buy ahead. Oh yeah, I've got a blotch. Yeah. Can fix. I'll fix it later. But yeah, you're going to do that on this thing. Like, I paint in sections so that most of the time when I blorf, I can blorf against like an unpainted or you know, only base coated surface. But it's just not always going to work out. And usually, Zorblag, when I do that, I often don't fix it right away. I'll just fix it when I go to paint the surface. Because I know what all my colors are, and I know how to mix them, so... Let's see, make sure I'm gonna... Yeah, I like the 8408s better, Bryce. But I think I use thinner paint than you do. I think that it really is a function of how... What your chosen paint consistency is which brush you get more mileage out of. Alright, so... But yeah, if I make a blorf at this point, I often won't fix it. I'll often just keep working on whatever I'm working on, and then when I get to that area, that's plenty of time to fix it. I mean, it's not like I'm going to miss it when I go to highlight that area of wing, right? Alright, now we need these crystals in, and then we can actually experiment with the colors I was thinking of. Let's see, I'm going to keep... Part of that actually is orange, I think. There. There. He is very green and orange right now. Yeah, I work with such thin paint that I love my ultra sharp thin brush tips. But it's always like, because Sergio uses really thick paint and he likes a much thicker brush than I do. He gets more mileage out of it than I do. See, now I did get a stripe of green on this crystal and you can see it showing through. So I may have to undercoat that in white again. But for our purposes right now, where we're just trying to finalize our color scheme, not too worried. Okay. All right, I think we're almost there. Boop. Huzzah! Okay. Oh, and this, of course, this big chunk. Duh. Duh, and there's a gigantic crystal there staring you in the face. I love this orange. I just want to say that. I love it. I adore it. I love the color. I'm really happy I got to use it finally on something. I used it a bit to highlight the purple that's in its triad on my sacrifice bust. And if that sounds weird, it's actually not. If on my Patreon, you can actually see me do it. Because a video back at the end of 2018, I think, or start of 2019, I showed how I did the cloth on that. And it is actually using this color to highlight purple. That's what I mean about sneaky highlights and shadows. It's like, I tend to have a crap ton of colors on the minis I paint. You just don't necessarily see all of them right away unless you look at the shadows and the highlights. Depending on how muted I'm going or how bright. It's perfectly possible to sneak a bunch of extra colors onto a model, especially when you've got some big bright pops like this, by introducing those colors as shadows or as highlights. Alright, so really I think I'm going to end up making those parts green now that I look at it. And I did get a blorf there. Let's see. I might be able to get that with water though, because it's not dried yet. Just kind of wipe it off. Get most of it off anyway. Oh, hey, thanks for the resub. Ooh, a year and a half. I've done that with my glasses, Grim. Sunglasses and reading glasses. And also with my brush, which turns out to be behind my ear, you know, that kind of thing. Alright. So we're doing okay here. I'm wondering, though, if I should introduce... I'm going to introduce just a little bit of yellow on some of these crystals, guys. Because I know that's what I'm going to do. And if I want to get a real sense on if this color scheme is going to work, I have to do that. I have to like play that in at this point a little bit. Hey, Roger, how's it going? Or Roger, as the case may be. There. Just so you guys know, I'm not streaming on my own channel later. I usually do on Wednesdays, but I have a lot to get done for Patreon and commissions. So I am taking the afternoon to get crap done. As I love streaming in the afternoon, but it does take a huge chunk out of my most productive time of day. So I'm going to back off this time. Y'all can hang out and maybe get some painting of your own done this afternoon. It's a great day to paint. But then tomorrow we'll be back with our D&D stream. So I should hopefully have gotten a little bit caught up at that point. All right, so since I know that a lot of these are going to be shifting yellow, either because I'm going to be highlighting them like this one, or I'm going to be actually doing a lot of yellow in the cluster. Cool, Jellyware. I can come in and throw some yellow here and there, do some wet blending. I don't even need to have I don't have to choose like what I'm doing here. I can just like randomly put some touches of yellow. All I want is to get kind of the feel of it, disrupt the intensity of this orange. Like these might not even be the faces that I eventually paint yellow on or the gems that I eventually paint yellow on. It's very easy to paint over this kind of light base coating. So I'm just going to get it in there so that I can get a real feel for how this is going to look. So a little bit of highlighting on a bunch of gems to break up that orange. Notice how it makes it much lighter, much friendlier. See how it brings it more in line with, like this works better with the green than these do. This is an interesting gem because the wing really blocks a lot of it from the light. So I don't know what we're going to do with it. It might have a lot of reflected. I might make this gem really dark in retrospect. It'll have some bounce light from the environment. I may have to play that up instead. All right, so that's pretty good. I'll just put a little bit of yellow here on the outside gems so we can get a feel for what we're doing. The yellow will cover over this blorf up top pretty well. And we'll do it there. Again, not really worried about if I have to paint this over. I just want to get the feel of what I'm eventually going to do so that I can make a good judgment call on color. Sure, it's a little bit more work in the long run, but it's really not much. I use such thin paint that this coat really doesn't do a lot. All right, so we got to see how we've disrupted that orange. Now we've brought in some of our yellow. Now we can make an actual judgment call on whether the color that we think will work will work. I was saying earlier, Roger, that if you wanted to go safe at this point and you're not very good at picking colors, yes, you can absolutely use the yellow on the chest under the wings and it will look great. I want to be daring. So I had mentioned that Icy Violet is a color you could use for this. And the reason that I was looking at it is that what we have here, if you ignore the yellow, which is more of a neutral, is we have a secondary color scheme. So let's talk color theory for a second when you're choosing colors. So primary color scheme is the primary colors. So red, yellow, and blue. Secondary color scheme is the secondary colors, green, orange, and purple, or violet, as this color wheel says. However, here we've got kind of we've got a yellowish green, we've got a reddish orange, and so what we're doing kind of is we're shifting our color wheel. So let me show you how this works. So we're like, all right, triad, there we go. So when I look at my back of my color wheel, it gives me an idea what complementary colors are if you compare the ones that are directly across. See this arrow? This is how you do this. There's split complementary, which we won't talk about right now, but the triads here is this triangle. And so if you line that up with red up here, Oh, I've got a piece of bark or chocolate. I'm not sure which. So red, you'll see that if you follow that triangle, you hit blue and you hit yellow. So see how they intersect? So now we've got, okay, I've got a yellow, green, and a red, orange. If I shift it and I look at color yellow, green, I make that one of my primary colors. Hold on. Yeah, get it on the triad. Gotta put your triad where your mouth is here. So yellow, green is what we're using for this guy. So part of the triad there. If I look, oh wait, like the other part of the triad here is red, orange. That's exactly what I'm using here. So that means if I want to, I can follow my triangle and look over here at blue, violet. So this going with a blue, violet then would be my natural triadic complement to these guys, right? Because it's right on the color wheel. It says that if I use a yellow, green, and an orange, red, I can use a blue, violet, and it should all work together. Now we go back over here and we're like, okay, but we're kind of using a washed out. You know, our colors are kind of washed out. So let's look at our blue, violet, and let's add white to it, right? Because we're going kind of pastel, right? So if we add white to blue, violet, it looks like this. What color do we have, folks? That looks like that. Oh, wow, that's almost a perfect match for Icy Violet. So do you see how you can use your color wheel now to make matches for colors? Like, so I went with a green, orange, purple, realized that they were shifted a little bit toward a red, orange, and a yellow, green, looked up what I should look for to be the final component of that triad, and then found a lighter color that had a lot in common with what I see here, adding white since I'm going pastels. I could also have chosen to go much darker with this and go with a dark blue, violet, but that would be a little bit more problematic as far as making it work under a wing membrane. So I've chosen to go all light here. And that means I've got relatively low contrast as far as lights and darks go so far. So this is why color wheel is useful, guys. This is, even if you only ever use color wheel to figure out what your complementary color is or your triadic color is, it will still help you with these things. And the other side tells you what happens when you add white or black or blue or yellow or red to any of these colors as well. You only probably, when you're starting out, need the what happens when you add white, what happens when you add black, because that will let you locate a color in Master Series or whatever paint line you're using that looks like that color. You'll be able to stare at your wall or your box or whatever and look for a color that looks like that. So I already know that this color is almost an absolute perfect triadic match for the rest of these colors. And when I look at it next to it, I can see that. I can see that it works. But I also wanted to kind of go with kind of a fleshy color for kind of the outer edges of these wings. So I'm hedging my bets by grabbing rosy skin. And the reason that I'm going with rosy skin instead of a different skin tone is that I want something that doesn't have black in it, which there are a few Reaper skin tones that do not have black in them. The other ones that have, that don't have black though, is Youthful Flesh, like 9445. That's very orange, and it's going to clash right away with these oranges here. It's just too close to them. Never go for a neutral that's really close to one of your main bright colors. So, well, Twisted Oma, if you're on my Patreon, I did an entire article on how to use your color wheel that covers that as a video, actually. So go and look up, go to my Patreon Discord and look at the directory if you're there, if you're in my Discord, if you're in my Patreon. If you're not, then hey, there's an even greater video on this on my Discord on my Patreon where I go into all of this. And I think it's $5 tier. Pretty sure it is. So it's only a $5. And you get so much. So yeah, if anybody of you who are on my Patreon, and I know a lot of you are, always go look at that directory channel in the Discord that Margaret put up, because you can look down all of that and see all the topics I've ever done, and chances are there's something that you need that you just haven't thought about. Hey, Bald GM. Great. Yeah, yeah, I think that my Patreon thing is called, again, Do You Need a Color Wheel? The answer is no, you don't. But if you have trouble choosing colors, it can help you. And it can help you very simply. It has even more broader uses once you get to be a pro at color. So let's put this down. Icy Violet is such a pretty color. And let's get our skin tone down too. Because I like to suggest like a fleshy tone for the underside of dragon wings. It's just something I really like to do. Like I said, you'd be within your rights to just go yellow with these, just the same as on the chest and the belly, and you'd be fine. Yeah, Rhonda's also a pro with color theory and explaining color. And explaining, Rhonda's really good also at explaining all the terminology. I'll be honest with you guys. I went to art school and I don't use half that crap. I don't remember to refer to mixing white into something as a tint, or mixing gray into something as a shade. You know, I don't remember any of that stuff. I don't use it a lot, but a lot of miniature painters do use it, so it's useful to know. All right, so these two colors, how will they mix? I do have a little bit of yellow in the flesh color, which is going to kind of go weird with the blue in the violet. So I have to decide right off the bat. I'm like, do I want to go more fleshy with this wing and just shade with the violet? Or do I want to go more violet and just highlight with the flesh tone? I kind of think I'm going to start pretty heavy with the skin tone here. Even though it's going to look weird at first because before it gets the violet in it, I think that using these to highlight and shade each other could work. And so I'm going to try to do it. Now, this is going to be an excellent example, you guys, of what I say when I say you can sneak colors in and you don't ever have to use a color pure and you'll still get the benefits of it. So here, if I put this skin color on this dragon, let's get a nice thick layer on here. And I don't think I would mix these, and that's because, like I said, there's yellow in the skin tone and there's blue in the indigo, the icy violet, and I wouldn't want to get any weird color interactions. You gotta kind of watch out for these. So first I'd put down a layer of my skin color. And it's gonna look a little weird. And it's mostly interacting with this orange, see? It doesn't like it, because it's too close. It's a little bit further away than the other one, but it still doesn't like it. When you put colors together, one being muted and the other one being bright, and they're like kind of the same color, because skin tones, Caucasian skin tones tend to be muted oranges, then they're going to fight. They're not going to look good. So once I've got this main layer down, though, I can start mixing in violet and maybe doing a little bit of wet blending. So I've still got a big puddle of skin tone here. Get out of there, puddle of skin tone. Probably put just a little bit too much onto the wing. Yeah, the directory is really, really helpful when you're looking for topics. You know, you might see something. So I'm going to really slobber this on up here. I want to see how it looks. So the skin tone's going to lighten this when I wet blend it. It's going to take it up. It's going to mute it a little bit, meaning that the orange is going to interact with the violet and blue. And it's going to pale it out a bit. It's going to make it a little peachy, but see how that color, that comes in. So that's a very delicate color at that point. But notice how already it likes everything around it better. Like, just mixing in a little bit of this icy violet up here is making everything work together better. So I'm encouraged by that, so I'm going to start spreading it out. And sometimes I thought about just doing the icy violet in the shadows, but now I think maybe I want a gradient. And I have to watch out because my paint is going to start to dry at any second. And once that starts happening, I have to back off. Because I've got some puddly paint here. And I don't want to get any paint skinning up or anything. So I have to be very careful. Once it starts to dry, it can kind of pull up and make a horrible kind of pit in the skin of the paint. And that's hard to recover from. So I'm just introducing, while it's still wet, I'm introducing some more violet in here. Kind of trying to wet blend it together. There's a lot of skin color still pooling down here. So I'm going to kind of pull it off with my brush a bit while I mix some violet into it. That's a very delicate shift. But remember, this dragon has a lot of delicate colors on him already. So I'm really just playing into my theme. There's two different schools of color theory here, guys, and I'm kind of ignoring the one I usually go for. Usually when I'm talking to you guys, I'm saying go big with light-dark contrast. And when you're first starting a model, when you're first starting painting, remembering to up your contrast is key. because a lot of people shy away from using really light colors and really dark colors. They tend to paint everything in the same range. And that's a mistake. Especially on 28 millimeters, you really need contrast. You need light, dark contrast to help bring out those details. But the other school of painting, or the other way to think about your painting and to think about contrast, uses color exclusively. So in this case, I'm not using any very dark colors. The most dark I'm using is when I'm using brown liner to line around areas of the model, like around these gemstones and between the chest and the hide. And I'm also using a little bit of brown liner to shade the gemstones, to line around the teeth and all that in the eye. So that's the darkest color I've got in the model, and it's not a main color, it's just a shadow. Lining is just a glorified, simplified shadow. So instead, I am going delicate with everything. And what I'm depending on here is the contrast between the colors I'm choosing. The warm and the cooler colors that I'm choosing. And that, to be fair, my orange is darker than my light colored chest. So that is working partially because of that. I'm depending heavily on lining to bring out different parts of my model. And I'm going to depend on the fact that I'm using a much cooler color here in the shading on the wings to separate the wings and make them distinct. See how pretty that is? Look at that pretty violet shadow in there, guys. Isn't that pretty? I really like it. And if I still feel like my skin tone is a little bit too much, what I'm going to end up doing with this skin tone, I'm not going to just leave it. I'm going to highlight it by mixing in white, which is going to take this peachy color down even more. And I'm going to leave even more icy violet in the shadows. So we're going to get this beautiful violet shadow on these wings, but the edges will still come up just like you see here. You see that gradient showing as we tilt the wing away from you. You can really see it there. So we're getting our violet, and we're still keeping in our color family with this orangey color, and it's more natural skin color too. So it tends to make it look more like light is shining through actual skin stretched between the wings. So what essentially I decided when I decided to do this is, one, I do like that skin look on wings. And two, I thought that this might be a little strong to just pop in there all on its own. So by mixing it with a lighter and a color that will mute it, a color that's pretty much not a complementary to it, but it would actually like technically count as a reddish orange probably, but a very muted one. So essentially I'm mixing my icy violet with a color I'm already using on the model, just one with a lot of white in it. So I'm very essentially using the red orange to highlight the violet and bring it a little bit more muted, and then gonna knock down that skin color. So this is more complex color theory, and yet at its root it's simple. Remember, guys, at its root we are just picking 3 colors that are triadic on the color wheel. That's at the root behind all that we're doing. That is what we are doing. And any fancy stuff that I toss in here is just icing. It's just an additional bit of punch. It's like, well, if I paint the entire wing membrane with this purple, it will work. And I could highlight it with just white, and it would work. But I think highlighting it with a skin tone makes it work even better. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, Nomad Zeke. Well, I always do it at the same time for Reaper, so sometimes I think it just makes more sense to set your alarm, set your phone alarm for Anne's show. Yeah, because you missed a lot of color theory, Nomad Zeke, on this. You might want to go back and catch it. All right, so I need to blend this in a little bit better. And now that everything is drying more, I can come back in. And I need to get some white mixed up so that I can make this flesh color tune out even more. Yeah, well, daylight savings is going to hit at the end of this month, I think, so that'll change everything else around for everybody else in the world. Sorry, guys. Sorry in advance. We'll be turning back our clocks. All right, so kind of blending in some more violet there. I'm going to grab some white so that I can make this work. I am actually very happy with how this is looking, so I can almost guarantee you this is how we're going to run. And this was mostly just a gut instinct on my part because I've worked with color for so long, and because, you know, the color wheel at this point, I've internalized it. I can kind of figure it out in my head. And all that takes is practice. Just use your color wheel. Try to create simple combinations at first, and then work out from there. I'm going to mix up a mixture of the skin tone and white so that I can start making it lighter. Yeah, Discord is just like Facebook, Grim. It's just got channels instead of pages. The channels are along the side. I'm an old person. I figured it out. But otherwise, it's a lot like Facebook. So now I'm going to take my mixture of this skin tone and white. And this is rosy skin, remember? 9068, one of our very useful skin tones. When you want something youthful and lively, and you want it to be a little bit pinker, this color actually works really well with auburn hair. You wouldn't think it, but it does. And it works great with greens, as you can see. Half of why it's working so well on this model is that it likes greens. I don't want all of my skin tone to be toward the outer part of the model. I still want some of it to be up here. I just want to blend it out. And I'll probably go back and forth a little bit on this as far as how much violet, how much, how much of the peach I'm bringing in. I'll keep tilting it and looking at how it looks so that I can see how much stronger I might want to go. I'm going to thin down my violet a bit so that I can layer with it properly. I'm going to dump my other paints on the ground because I don't need them. Yeah, rosy skin be a good pig color. And if you're doing like black and white pigs that would have the flesh different skin colors, you would use a dark gray for the other skin color, the dark skin color. But yes, a white pig is going to have the fleshy colored skin. All right, I'm going to throw some icy violet down into this hollow here. Oh, I missed a gemstone. That little thingy should be orange. It happens. There's a lot going on this model, so. All right, so I'm going to keep the mostly here because it's in the shadow. I'm going to make the icy violet a little stronger. And then I'll start, and especially here, because right here is where you could get some clashing. You're putting a muted version of this orange red up against the very saturated version of the orange red. So to make this work right here, I'm probably going to sneak in a little bit more violet than I normally would. And I'm also probably going to highlight that gem pretty strongly with some yellow. I'm going to throw in and wet blend in some of my skin tone in here. Oh, I thinned it down a bit, so I'm losing my color. When you thin the paint down, you do lose the intensity. I was thinking layering because I was layering back here, but then I realized that I still had a lot to base coat. It's a good glazing consistency, but it's not a great base coating consistency anymore. But you guys get the idea. So that color, I would say, is definitely going to work on this model. It's very light. It's going to make the underside of the wings much lighter than the rest of the dragon. So we are actually introducing contrast, guys. But instead of going dark, we're going even lighter. We're taking something that's a middle grade pastel and we're going even lighter with the wings. This is the side effect. Yeah, yesterday there wasn't as much color theory. Today has a lot of color theory. Yesterday I was working with this front leg and explaining a lot more about gemstones, though, Tashi. So if you could also just wait for me to work on gemstones again on other parts of this dragon. I will re-explain. So yeah, I added some more paint back into my mix. Just because you overthin your paint doesn't mean you're beyond the point of return. Just, you know, add more paint to it. And this, of course, is the advantage of not having to mix everything, right? Like, we all bemoan the fact that we have 50 zillion bottles of different paints, and then we consider going to the back to a simpler time where we would just mix what we needed. But that falls down flat the minute you want to, you know, the minute you overthin your paint and you wish you could just add 1 drop more to make it the right consistency. Except you hand mix the whole thing, so now you have to hand mix a whole new batch. Yeah, I mean, you can't judge it. All that we're judging right now, Inara, is we are judging, like, will this color work or does it clash horribly? Right now, I'm going to say it's going to work. Remember also that the screen becomes darker because remember how I tested it here? So we shall see how much I can make a shift. I personally like it and think it works. And like I said, it is a straight up triadic color scheme. So it does work, whether you like it. If you don't like it, that's fair. That's fair, totally. I think I like it. Now, I may decide that I want to mute it a bit more, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have lining in. I don't have the final highlights. All I've got here is a wet blend to try to judge if I like the wing color. So, and these aren't done. Nothing's done, right? So this is a very early, and honestly, if you're not very confident in your color theory, maybe you don't even want to try this yet. I mean, if you think I would have a hard time judging if that was even working, but my gut says it's going to work. My gut likes it, so I'm going to go with my gut. Everybody's gut's different, though. I mean, like I said, everybody paints different. And many people would have been very happily just grabbing the yellow and going with that for the wing membranes. I'm the one who, I get very bored with analogous color schemes. I'm just like, no, I want a pop of cool in there somewhere. So we'll see how we go. And I may have to darken this. I may have to actually take some, I may need to mute it out. I may need to mix in some brown liner to take it down a bit, down in the shadows. Or I may choose a saturated shadow and see what I can do with like ultramarine shadow. Well, it's going to get more yellow, though. Remember, all of this is yellow, too. It's going to have a lot more yellow on the crystals, because remember, this is this. All these cluster crystals are not going to be orange. But again, yeah, you're right. You would do it totally different. If we all made the same decisions when we were handed the same colors, there would be no variety in the world, right? It's like, colors are not infinite. There are definite combinations, and a different artists will use the same colors differently every time and will be very happy with their results in line with their own aesthetic, right? And me, I get bored with analogous. So for me, I want to reach for this cooler color, even if I later regret it, but I don't think I'm going to regret it. I kind of like it. So we'll see. Because I was going very warm and earthy here, and I'm departing from warm and earthy here. So I could regret it. It is possible. Alright, so, however, you do think it needs more yellow, so let's just do that. Let's just grab our Harvest Brown and our NMM Gold, which we actually already have open. NMM Gold Highlight. Oh, I need to shake that up even better because Harvest Brown loves to separate because it has high solids. If my eye was really refined Safaroka, I probably would be fine with what Inara is hinting and just gone with yellow for the membranes. But, you know, like I said, I get very bored if I don't have complementaries. It's probably something I should work on. I have a witch bust that I want to do with no blue or purple. All just warm colors and dark olive greens, like oranges, yellows, and dark olive greens. And we shall see if I manage to do it without introducing ever a blue or a purple. Because we all know Anne's brain. Alright, actually I'm going to put in these little paw claws. Paw claws. Because Christine suggested the brown. So she's the sculptor. Let's rock with it. And we'll definitely use some brown liner as well. And we'll definitely be bringing this orange up. or this brown up, I should say. But what I want to do here is to see if it's going to work. Yeah, it does read darker. So yeah, I'm going to say, sure, we'll start there. I mean, I started there a bit on these horns too. I just, I faded them out instead of making them more intense. And I'll fade these out too. I just won't do it with a wet blend in the beginning. So that was Christine's Rainbow Sculptor's suggestion. So we'll get all the little toes. All the little toes. It's hard to hit this one paw. It's like way back in there. So hard. I wish there are definitely times in painting this where I wish I did not have the 3D sculpt or the 3D render, where I wish I had the actual model, because I'm sure that like the feet will be separate from the legs or something, and so you'll actually be able to paint them well and then slot them together. Or the feet will be like, you know, at least separate from the rocks so that you've got a little bit more leeway. I mostly want to see if those work. So that brings in a very warm tone. Well, Safaroko, actually, I brought that up to Christine earlier. I'm like, I told her, I'm like, people are going to want to paint the gemstones the same as the claws because the claws are sculpted as gemstones. And her response was that you can paint the claws any way you want. She didn't have anything in mind when she sculpted them that way. But that is the way people think, right? I think that would be overkill. I think it's totally not going to look good to do that, in my opinion, with the colors I've chosen, Safaroko. Now, if I had gone like I was originally going to go with a dark ultramarine and maybe pink crystals, maybe I could make pink crystals work as claws, because they would be a lot lighter than the dragon, and I probably, with a lot of white faceting, I could have brought them up to near white, at which point it probably would work. So I think a lot has to do with what colors your crystals are compared to what color your dragon is, what color everything is, right? I don't know, this witch bust that I have does not need purple. She is very firm in telling me that she does not need purple. Did you guys ever see this? This is the concept art, although I'm not going to follow it. It's Ignis art, and I am going to make the potion bottle glow, but she's a beautiful sculpt. And I'm going to do her all green, orange, etc. Yeah, this dragon is very cat-like. He's got kind of a crouchy thing going on. Ultramarine and pink. Yes, ultramarine blue and some of the Pathfinder pinks might work. Milani Rose might work. I don't have the pinks right in front of me, but you know what I mean. Take some nice, pretty, delicate pink, shade it with purple, with like the new Lotus purple, and put it on a ultramarine blue dragon. All right. What were we doing? Oh yes, yellow. We were doing yellow. We were doing belly. Oh, I think I need actually a little bit of brown liner. Where are we? There we go. Thank you, Bean Mitch, for your sub. 6 month, half a year streak. You know, the problem is, Miss Dim, that I do believe that everything needs purple, but I'm fighting myself on that because we all get into color ruts, right? And I have been in the purple color rut for decades. I need to get out of it. I need to paint a model without purple, and I've already sacrificed it here. So yeah, so this is that Halloween witch from Art Libris, or Ignis Art, sorry. She is like, I do not have purple. She's like, that way. She's like, no way. She's like, none of you. That's what she says. Looking at me saying, none of that, young lady. I'm not a purple witch. Alright, so now I wet blended, for the shadow color, for the belly color on this, my NMM Gold highlight and my Harvest Brown with a little bit, you can see kind of the dirty, like it's really darkening down kind of here. That's the brown liner also being mixed in. So I did kind of a 3-cornered wet blend to get that color. And I may just need to mix some of it up rather than trying to wet blend this whole under area, because that could get like pretty crazy pretty fast. Trying to wet blend an area that you can't really reach very well with your brush in the first place, kind of fraught with peril. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a mixture of these three colors. And maybe even, I'm pretty sure I added a little bit of Osirian sand too to mute it out. So we'll make two drops of the yellow, 1 drop of Osirian sand. I'm going to grab just a little brush full, like a drop or so of the Harvest. That looks a lot like what we have under that chest, except it needs just a little touch. See, I was right about what the mix was. Little touch of that. Okay, so we've gone a little too ashy. We need a little bit more warmth. Yeah, there. That's perfect. Pretty much. Maybe just a tiny bit more brown. When you add that liner in, it really overwhelms it because there's so much black in liner. So you always have to think about that. When you add black, you can't go back. And yes, that's funny, but at the same time, it's true. Because you can't, once you've got that black pigment in there, you will go ashy. There is nothing you can do. Actually, that's not dark enough. Oh, interesting. Maybe I have to add a little bit more of that. A little bit more of that. Make it even darker. There. Yeah, that's still reading a little bit too light to me. It's not going to dry dark enough. So now we need to really load it. Keep shifting darker until I get what I want. I'm in the right color family. I'm just like a shade too light. No, this is, it's translucent. This is the 3D print, Avrelina. We always, when you see me with a pre-release Reaper model, it's almost always a resin copy or a 3D print. In this case, it's a 3D print because I got it back at the beginning when they first printed it to show it on the show on Reaper Live. Wow, I'm just like not hitting that color. You guys can't see it very well because it's all in shadow, but there you can kind of see it where my color back here is way too light. So I'm going to have to murder this. Murder! See how dark and awful and green that went? That's the problem with adding a lot of black. Now to counter that, I'm going to have to add a whole drop of Harvest Brown. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm playing with a black color that's going to really mute and dull out and make into mud this color. Then to counter it, I'm coming back in with this warm brown in order to shift it away from that horrible greenish, ugly gray color more toward a friendly brown. And it's going to take a bit of shifting because, like I said, purple's great, but sometimes you just want to get out of your comfort zone. And I'm somebody who does like to push it and do something different every once in a while. I get tired of doing the same sort of thing, which is part of why I started this dragon doing this in the first place. I don't paint pastel, but I'm painting pastel here. Yeah, if your husband loves translucent and you're going to fight over dragon, then you totally need 2 of these. Maybe even more. That's my opinion. So now, okay, now we've darkened this down a lot. There we go. Now we're much closer to what I wanted. Yeah, there we go. Now we got a match. So now we've got a match. You can see even I put that right there, and it matches up really well with that. Perfect. Okay, that took a bit of doing. This is something that can help you remember your mixes, guys. Notice how when I'm mixing this, I'm using the same colors that I've used elsewhere on the model. So I'm using the NMM Gold highlight that I used for the highlighting the crystals, right? And I'm using the Osirian sand to highlight that, which I'm also using to highlight the green. Remember, I'm mixing it into the green to highlight it. And then I'm using this brown that that I'm also using to shade the crystals. And I'm using the liner that I'm using to line the crystals. So really, if I were to lay out my color palette before I added that violet to the wings, it would be pretty easy. Like, I'd be able to put these in a little Ziploc bag and go, okay. And I could technically, oh, I also would need my ancient oak. So I could technically probably throw aside the cat's eye green and just go with ancient oak and this. But, so this is a pretty manageable color palette. Now, I've thrown 2 more colors into it. But if I'm mixing, if everything I'm doing, I'm mixing just these colors, it's really easy for me to remember how to mix things. Because I'm going to be like, oh yeah, well I need a lot of brown because I added brown to this. I can see that it has brown in it. I know that it's this yellow because, you know, it's this yellow. And I probably need a little bit of my Assyrian sand because that's what I mixed in to make this. And then I'm also using this to darken it down because the only dark color on my palette is that. So when I'm figuring out and reconstructing my mixes, I'm only working with the same 4 colors that are in that section, right? That's all I'm working with. Because this is a yellow, so I know that it's a yellow-brown, and it's darker. So I know that my only options for mixing this color are these, because that's the only colors I'm using. Whenever I need a yellow, I'm reaching for this. Whenever I need a white or an off-white, I'm reaching for this. So, you know, it limits things so that you can remember better what you're using if you always use the same color across the model like this. You should only use purple if it makes sense. Unfortunately, on most of my models, it makes sense. I do love my purple. I guess technically I'm not using any purple on my Rocket Girl. All right, now we need to get in here and we need to try to get the rest of this belly. Now that we've got this color mixed up, we've got to use it. So we'll get it in here. And a lot of this I'm not going to highlight. Like a lot of this underside is going to stay in shadow. I will probably highlight some of the bands of muscle that are out toward the outer edge where you can actually see them. But so much of this is just going to stay not really being seen that, if anything, you should add more shading between the sections. It just pays, if it's going to be in a deep shadow, guys, it pays to just paint it dark. I've said this before. It doesn't make sense there would be a lot of light bouncing around down there, especially because I'm going to make the stone dark. So try to get everything. Like I said, this guy is probably going to be in a couple of pieces when you guys get him for bones. That's going to make it much easier. You won't have to fish around like I am. Yep. Yeah, I use walnut instead of black in R because I don't like using pure black in my models, but that's a weird and idiosyncrasy. There are exceptions. But yeah, you just paint it dark. Now, there are areas that you can kind of see in here, so then you've got to be a little careful and at least block them in. I'm having to move between the legs of the dragon to get that underbelly space in there. You can see that a bit of white is still showing. So I'm pretty much just kind of turning this thing all around and trying to see where there are holes I can stick my brush through to get these areas. Because you want everything painted, but you can get away with painting it all dark. In this case, I'm just going to use this brown most likely, because in the shadows it's gonna look just dark. And again, I'm trying to paint this dragon a bit pastel, so I don't want to go with a black or something. It would look really stark. But I will use this brown. And we've got this coming in. There. I think... Almost. I see an area I missed. There. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop. Oh, I see another one. Boop. He's just got so many little areas. Alright, I think I've got the entire belly painted now. I'm turning it around, looking. Yep, looks like it's painted. It's all nice and dark brown. Oh, I missed a spot over here. There. I don't see any white, which is great. All right, cool. Now we can get back to doing what we want to do, adding more yellow. Now my NMM gold here is highlighted with Osirian sand, and it's got this brown as its shadow color. It's I'm using it really slightly just mixed into this yellow here to give just a little bit of highlights, a little bit of shadow underneath here to bring out the details in this dragon's neck. And I'll be doing the same back here. In parts of the tail where it's starting to emerge into the light, I am going to put some of this yellow down to bring out those sections a little bit. Just to make it evident. Oh, I may have a Kiri emergency, guys, and we don't have a Justin. So if I have to get her out of here, you guys will have to entertain yourselves for a couple of seconds. We almost made it to 11, but we didn't quite. I'm going to watch her for a second. She's kind of looking at me with that look on her face, but if she settles back down, we'll just keep going. But, no. I have a Kiri emergency. All right, I'm going to leave you guys with that thought for a few minutes while I rush her outside. Yeah, he is definitely difficult to get a brush under. I had to really contort myself. All right, guys, I'm going to be right back, okay? Kiri.
Hi, chat. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Uh, type a 1 in chat if you can hear me. I don't know if you can. Okay, I can see you guys. Yeah, I'm about to go to lunch, and I saw that Anne had a Curie emergency, so I thought I'd hop in. How's everybody? How's everybody doing? This fine Wednesday morning. You did not get hacked this morning, uh, or we did not get hacked. If you got that email, if you haven't got it yet, be on the lookout for it. It's been a lot of fun. Did we get rated? I'm interested in rated SIC. Thanks, Luca. Yeah, and I believe Luca's show is next week. Uh, you gotta follow the clues in the email. If you follow the clues, you'll find it. Special Halloween stream. Um, I know the guys and girls that are playing in the D&D game on Friday are going to be giving away treats and stuff. Grim did tell me that chapter 2 will be starting sometime soon, and they're going to be a lot harder. Hi, everyone. Yes, the email is not bad. We did not get hacked. But you guys just got to go down the rabbit hole, follow all the clues.
Clues. There's a mystery. Kiri, did you hear that? You're not acting much like Scooby Doo, though. You're just disrupting the stream, right? You want to settle down? Sorry, guys. That was a big Kiri explosion. I had a lot to clean up. Let's see here. Oh yeah, we were doing the tail. Bye, John. Thanks. Gonna get some of my Osirian sand out. Remember, that's our off-white that we're using to highlight pretty much everything. The gemstones themselves will come up to pure white. I was just looking through my notes from Sergio's class the other day because I found them on my phone, and I always like to review. But he points out that only NMM and gemstones and things like that perfectly reflect light, that are the shiniest things, only those things should get a pure white highlight, like a strong pure white highlight. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a good lead up to Halloween week. Sorry about that. Got a little bit of Kiri distress. Had to rescue the Kiri in distress. I'm going to thin down. Now that I've finished base coating with this brown, I'm going to use it to shade our yellow tail. So I need it to be a little thinner. Because we have to take this color and bring it up to this color so that we have a definite correlation, because there's light definitely hitting this area. But I am blocking it in just NMM Gold highlight for the most part. Wet blended with a little bit of our brown. Because it's easy to highlight up, right? So if I start with a mixture of the NMM Gold and the brown, then I get that kind of, that color, a little bit of muting the yellow just a tad. And then we're bringing in that yellow there. I think the general moral of this story is that Reaper and Reaper peeps love Halloween. David and I were talking this morning about how Halloween has or hasn't been adopted by different cultures across the planet, because it used to be it seemed like it was an American thing up to a point, but then I know it got big in England. And I wasn't sure about places like France or Italy or Spain. Is Halloween big? Like, those of you in Europe, like, is Halloween a thing in Europe? I'm gonna take some of this brown and kind of line. We'll line with the actual brown liner also, but sometimes I like to start getting a little shading in by lining with my shade color first. I don't know if it's as big retail-wise in Ireland as it is in America, those are black. Is it? I don't know. I've never been in Ireland for Halloween. I've been in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so it's like Germany knows what it is, but it's not huge unless like a specific German really likes it and wants to celebrate by decorating. Got it. But no trick-or-treating. Well, this year, no trick-or-treating anywhere. I feel sad for the kids. I hope their parents bought them lots of Halloween candy anyway. I bought myself Halloween candy. I just like decorating usually. I did buy 2 pumpkins yesterday at the store, so I'm going to carve. I got 2 just in case David decided he wanted to carve one, though he tells me he doesn't want to. But that usually, like, holds right up until somebody else in the household starts carving a pumpkin, and suddenly everybody wishes they could carve a pumpkin. So maybe not. Maybe I'll end up carving both. I have plans for both, just in case. But I like carving pumpkins. So, and Reaper usually has, at least last year, it had an employee pumpkin carving contest, and we did an owl, Sadie, and the paint department did. Sadie and Sarah and me. And we liked our owl a lot. All right, so I'm taking that brown that I used to shade over here, and I'm using it to pick out those striations back here. Yeah, the weird thing about where we live is that in our apartment complex, it's a lot of Asian families, and I just don't see a lot of Halloween decorations. Like, and David said nobody knocked on his door last year. But I don't think, like, in India or China, I don't think Halloween is really a thing. I don't know. I'm just curious about it. I have no idea. So I'll do my pumpkins, but and they can share my my Tootsie Roll fruit chews if they want. But I wondered if I was wondering, the reason we got on the topic at all is I was wondering if I should order some candy or get some candy at the last minute, just in case. And put out a bowl, right? No contact. Candy shoots, that's fun. Oh yeah, the Japanese, okay. Maybe Hong Kong. Yeah, I could see that. It's interesting. I think we have more Chinese than Japanese here, but I could be wrong there. Seems like there's a big Chinese community in just the Bay Area in general. So I'm using some of my Osirian sand to highlight those now, and you can see that it's coming more into vogue with what it looks like up here as I highlight these areas. I think you can't generalize, really. I mean, because Declearman, right? Because Indian culture is very different from Chinese or Japanese. I think, at least that's what I've gotten kind of just in my limited interactions. So I'm not sure. So maybe I should pick up a little candy just in case. I was just thinking about putting out like a little table with a bowl on it. Beers for the parents. That's funny. I was just thinking that just putting it in a bowl and putting it out. I guess you would have to lay it out separately though, or people would handle the candy in the bowl. I guess that's part of the problem, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I may just hold off and kind of see how it works here. Like how people do it. I might have to, because I'm going to have my pumpkins out though, I probably should say, you know, sorry no candy, but happy Halloween anyway, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know what's like, you know, what's the thing to do with the COVID thing, right? What's COVID etiquette? Like we got this whole bunch of COVID etiquette now, right? Like what's the good way to say sorry no candy, but happy Halloween anyway? There we go. Got some highlights up there on top of the tail. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I was thinking of just avoiding being at the door. I mean, I could totally, you know, put myself behind a table. I do have a mask. Although, here you go, guys. If this isn't the irony, what is? The only Halloween costume that I have right now is a Plague Doctor mask. Like I have an actual raven mask, like the long bird nose and everything. So a little bit too applicable, maybe. I don't think they want like the spirit of plague giving away Halloween candy. It seems appropriate, right? But it also seems like, ooh, do I really want to go there? I don't have my cape to wear with it anymore. I used to have a cloak and a cape and stuff. I don't really have it now. The only other thing that you could call a costume, quote unquote, is my Renaissance fair getup. But do I really want to dress up in high Victorian fashion for Halloween? I guess I'm not going to be using it at Renaissance fairs, or I haven't used it at Renaissance fairs this year. So there we are. Maybe Yellowtail. Yeah, the mask would be funny. I know. Part of me would be giggling, Bryce, but part of me would be horrified too. Alright, I'm going to mix up some of my NMM Gold highlight. We went a little long today because I lost like 10 minutes to Kiri. Yeah, I guess I could wear it around town. I'd probably get some looks. I just always liked the long bird face look of it. Kind of like want to blend in, since I used a much more delicate thinned down brown version over here. I kind of wanted to use this NMM Gold highlight glaze to dull down my brown back on the tail. Got a bit stronger to see it. Like it's very, very light touches up here on the neck, but it's much more strong on the tail. So no, I did not go. when I'm in my own house and I might have to rush the dog out, Rainbow Sculptor, I don't want to wear that huge, long, very fancy skirt when there's like dog poop, danger of dog poop occurring. But yeah, I did not go to fair this year. I wanted to go to Scarborough before I left, but that was when COVID was starting to really rear its ugly head back in March before I moved to California, and they canceled the fair. So I know I think Scarborough is going on, but, or not Scarborough, Texas Run Fest. So one of the Renaissance festivals I saw was going forward. A couple of them were, but I don't think I'd want to go there. I'll wait. I ordered from my favorite soap companies online instead. They had promotional deals for the fairs they weren't going to. All right, so I've lightened up that brown a little bit. It's still stronger than it is up here, but there are also a lot more striations down here on the tail than there are up here. The chest is a lot more smooth. So I don't mind it so much. I want to bring in some of my highlights again. When you glaze with a middle tone, you lose your highlights. And you might have to go back in and re-accentuate those if you want that highlight punch. There we go. Yeah, Bristol. That's my old Renaissance fair that I always went to since I grew up in Bristol. Yeah, I think it's smarter not to open this year. I know it's really hard on all the vendors, but hopefully a lot of people like me went online to order and keep people in business. Alrighty. Well, we're almost at 20 after, so I probably can. I've made up my time deficit a little bit from the Kiri dog explosion. She's a good girl. She just has an unpredictable butt. I probably could highlight the chest a little bit more. I got dark here and then I just wet blended it and I didn't ever come back and highlight it. So I'm going to bring that up a little bit. Just the areas that are more toward the front, though, get just a little bit of light. There. Oh, yeah, yeah. If you got married at the fair, I could totally see that. And I gotta look at the brown on this side, see if I wanna... I don't know if I'm really... I guess I'll use some yellow and bring up some of these areas just a little bit so that you get the color. So it's evident that it's the same color. I'm just kind of using the side of my brush to block in some little highlights here. I'm going to judge whether it's too much. But we do need a little bit of that color for this side of the model, because this green still gets a fair amount of light. So this area right here, I'll bring up a little bit more. Just kind of use your best judgment as far as where to put your highlights and where not to, as far as what to keep dark. I don't want everything to just look flat and brown over here, so if there is light going in, I want to pick up some of those details. But I don't want to pick up very much, because it is still in shadow. I think that's pretty good. Alright, I'm kind of liking it. So I've got more yellow in it now, thanks to the tail. So I can still judge later whether I want to go that direction. Again, doing that with the wings is a perfectly good answer, and it will make the whole dragon look like it belongs very much to itself. I think I'm still going to mess with these wings, though. I still like that indigo color. One thing I could do is, if I chose what I was just talking about, if you highlight with the same colors across the model, you can make everything blend in and look much more integrated. So one thing I could do, guys, is I could take this Osirian sand that I used to highlight the orange and the green and the yellow, and I could use the Osirian sand to highlight this skin tone. That might marry it all up, because right now these colors only appear on the wings. They don't appear anywhere else on the model, except for, remember, we did use a hint of a rosy skin tone here on the muzzle. So there is a parallel, but it's very subtle, and you don't catch it right away. So if I take this Osirian sand and I use it to build highlights on these wings, I may be overall happier with the effect. The other thing I can do if I wanted to marry this together, remember I was going with maybe a darker blue-gray for the stone down here, not the crystals, but the actual stone piece. I could use this Icy Violet to highlight parts of that stone, since I was already going to go with a gray that had a little bit of blue in it. And that way I could tie everything together as well. So that would essentially resolve the wings and make them have more in common with all of it. I also can take that Icy Violet and make it the dragon's eye color, which I'm very, very tempted to do right now. Because that will also bring that color in as a stronger part of the color scheme, not as an isolated color that only appears one place on the model. You don't really want, if you're going to use a strong color that's noticeable, you don't want it to appear only one place on the model. Again, the eyes are very small though, so, and I did thin down my Icy Violet. I need it to be a little bit more full strength, I think, to get the full color. So we'll pop that color into the eyes. But the eyes are, again, very small, so it works more as an accent color there. I'm just hoping that if I repeat it, that I can make everything work together. So yes, if you're using a bright color for an accent, don't ever just put it one place on the model. Figure out where you can repeat it. There, that'll help. And if I do it on the rocks, it'll help again. So yeah, we'll keep working with it. I'm not unhappy with it, so we will continue. I think I'll line around little claws. But I think he's pretty. He's certainly got a lot more color on him now, doesn't he? Like from when we started at the beginning of this week. I think I'll do Transparent Wraith tomorrow. I need to wash him. I kind of was thinking about what I wanted to do to him. Mostly I think he's just going to be a demo piece where I can show you guys kind of what happens when you work with those translucent models. So I'm just lining around these little claws. And I'm also going to line where they meet the green skin because I want them to stand out. There. So lining makes everything stand out more. He's getting there. He's getting there. Thanks, Kraniko. I'm glad you like him. I like him too, or I wouldn't be like in danger of actually like finishing this guy someday. You can tell when I like a model because I keep working on it. If ever I just like utterly like don't like where a model is going, you'll see me just work it out of rotation. Or like if it's really boring, like I did get bored with Fire Giant King, so he's like shelved for the moment. Until I feel like coming back and maybe doing the other side of his sword or something. But he's just got so much, on him there's so much repetition yet to go that sometimes I like to give it. See how putting that dark shadow behind the paw, by the way, guys, makes that paw stand out big time down here. So lining, heavier lining can seriously add some pop to your details. Going with more subtle lining over much of this model because he has such delicate colors. I don't want too strong. But down here on the paw, with this, the rock is probably going to be quite a bit darker than the feet. So throwing that big shadow there shows you how much that can be true if I use a dark color for this rock. And then I will be throwing in contrast in the environment, not on the dragon, but on the rock itself. So some of this will probably be earth, like this area. I'll probably do brown, and I'll probably also do some basing stuff. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure. His environment is forest, so I probably need some leaves, some fallen leaves. And I need some grass, some fall grass to go with my crystals to put him in a place. So I may actually have to put him on a bigger base. I don't know if I have a big enough base for him as far as plastic goes. I don't know if I've got some of those really big Reaper ones. I kind of want to put build up some more of a less of a straight up and down, since this area is getting handled a lot. It's got a lot of finger oils on it and stuff. I'm gonna have to probably wash it off a little bit before I deal with things. I kind of like to blend it into a base around it. Yep, yeah, I'm just gonna sign off. John, do we have a raid, or Justin? I guess I can text Justin if he's not here. Let us see here. I see. Justin is in transit, and he should be home right about any second now. Great, I'm wrapping up. I'll just let him know. Raid at will. There we go. So when we see the raid pop up, we will know that Justin is in the house. But until then, I think I'll just keep touching up. And dropping things, because I can. Why not? Yeah, alright, so I can do indigo there. Raining. Wow. I guess it is fall, huh? Like, it's easy for me to forget here, although it's very cold in the morning now here. It's definitely in the 40s in the morning. But, but in general, like, we don't get the rain until winter. Kind of miss that. We can also put some yellow highlights on some of these crystals. It's cold. Texas got cold. I do remember it was really cold this past winter, because I was just huddled in my little house thinking about how cold it was. Especially because my bedroom was always cold because there were big windows in it. And it was on the side of the house where, like the front room was always the warmest and the bedroom was in the back, so it was always freezing. I do not miss that. It was really toasty in the bedroom this morning. When I woke up, I appreciated that very much. I hate cold. I hate being cold so much. So yeah, we're just waiting on Justin to go find a raid, guys. So if you guys have to clear off and go get lunch or do your life stuff. Remember, I'm not going to be streaming today on my own channel. I have a lot of stuff to get done for Patreon and commissions. So I am going to be taking a day off of Twitch today on my own channel, and I will rejoin you on the Painting Big Twitch tomorrow. And of course, we'll be back on here. Oh, here we are. Justin's got us rating Dices. So say hello to Dices, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.